Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome. It is February 15th, day after Valentine's Day. This is the RambleCast. I am Cody Toombs. You know me. I'm going solo today. There's no Corbin. He is, last I heard, getting ready to take his trip to Mars. He's buckling in. He will hopefully be back next week to report from Red Planet. Or not. We'll see what happens. So anyway, how are you? How is everyone? I hope you're having not the worst time in this cold AF weather. Don't know about everyone else, but yeah, we got snow. It's not too bad, but it did happen. We're also getting freezing temperatures. Somehow we went from the 20s to the 50s today, because yeah, that's just how it plays. Yeah, that's that quick update. Because it's always fun talking about the weather. Let's see. Oh, let's close that before I switch over. But yeah, it's not the most exciting of weeks. There's been relatively little in the way of interesting tech news. Though, huge thanks to Austin for contributing some reading material. I had a couple of my own, but yeah, I guess, yeah, I've got two of my own. But yeah, a little bit more always helps. So, let's see, may as well. Oh, what just happened in Discord? Oh yeah, okay. Let's actually turn down the volume I'm hearing for a second. Actually, I look like I'm a little quiet. I'm gonna nudge my gain up just a touch. Okay. Yeah, that looks about right. Okay. So, let's just start off with the silliest thing that has happened this week, because how do we not? The dumbass has just gone completely off the rails. He did what all of us knew he was going to do. He ordered more people to listen to him. Hey David, how's it going? And also hello to Kirby. Good having your shiny faces here. Shiny faces, actually. That could be taken the wrong way. Anyway, happy to have you around. Crap, I don't know if I should have just bumped my desk the way I did. It might cause something to fall down. Anyway, So, David, yeah, you're gonna get some of it. The Chief Twit, as he lovingly refers to himself. How many people pick their own nickname and everyone else can collectively agree, oh yeah, no, you were proud of it, but seriously. Anyway, Curvy. Yeah, I have a funny feeling other people said those words, but they didn't mean the same thing. And everyone feels bad about it either way. Anyway, so he has actually truly and officially gone off the rails and ordered his engineers to make more people listen to him. That's literally what happened. He's not happy more people aren't listening to him. So he made this a top priority that everyone had to make sure he was the guy everyone hears. How does this happen? How does somebody go from like 2 years ago? Not everyone, but a lot of people looked at this guy and thought, hey, you know, he at least knows what he's doing. He's a pretty smart guy. He's got his stuff together. To now, I mean, come on. Literally, this is as close as you can get to the Emperor has no clothes as like a living metaphor. Anyway, so here he is. The way his engineers decided to make this work is they apply a multiplier to all of his tweets, basically making him 1,000 times louder than anyone else. So every time he tweets, or every time there's a trending topic about him, it basically just automatically will show up in every timeline. It will always be in trending. It will always be relevant, no matter what. Apparently, even he did kind of get the hint that this might be too much, and supposedly he's ordered them to work on toning this down a little bit, which I have a feeling really just means, I think honestly it really means that they're just going to make it so his replies do not always show up in people's feeds. Otherwise, I bet everything will just perpetually stay there. And David, exactly, like it wasn't bad enough. Seriously, every time I checked Twitter or got any notification from Twitter for the last, I'd say 2 months, every single time, it is just tweets from him. And at the top of my timeline, it was always a tweet from him. I don't follow him. I've never followed him. At one point, every time I was visiting Twitter for a while, I was clicking see less often on tweets from him. It did no good. So I didn't go as far as blocking him because I still figured there'd be times I'd want to show a tweet or something like that somewhere. But yeah, at a certain point, short of blocking him, evidently there's nothing you can do. He will just always be there. And this got me thinking, what, at this stage, outside of obviously how things started, what is the difference between this and Trump with his, technically both with Truth Social and the thing that he had before Truth Social that was basically just a blogger site? What is the difference between these two? I mean, it's literally like it's a social network built around being a sounding board for the guy at the top. They have decided to literally turn themselves into the perpetual main characters, which I've kind of grown to hate that term, but it also fits so freaking well here because they actually need to be, in their minds, the protagonists of their own stories. So, holy crap, what Elon is thinking, I cannot imagine. And more importantly, can nobody tell him, yo, dude, know when too much is too much? Like, find a level and stick to it. You're going so far over the top with this stuff. Imagine for a moment imagine for a moment if oh, actually, this is weirdly too good. Imagine for a moment if the Oprah network, or I think it's called the Oprah network. Imagine if it was literally just 24/7 Oprah, reruns of Oprah, interviews of Oprah, like just nothing but literally Oprah's face 24/7. I honestly don't know what's on there, so I'm just guessing, but I have a feeling there's things other than Oprah on the Oprah network or Oprah channel or TV, whatever the hell it's called. I bet there's other stuff. I bet even she knows at some point you can have too much of this person. I don't think Elon knows that. If you turned on the WB and all you saw, actually, what the hell's the most popular show on the WB right now? Or CW. I don't know what it is, but pretend I did and pretend I said it. And imagine for a moment even if the most popular thing, which I don't think he is, let's be honest. Even if the most popular thing is on there, like there's a point at which any viewer on that channel would say, okay, seriously, we've had enough of this show. Can we watch literally anything else? Elon's answer would actually be, nah, you need more tweets from me. Here, I'll get to making some. Awesome. The difference is Trump wants to leave Truth Social for Twitter. Yeah, that's true. Well, hey, give it a little time. I have a feeling Elon will have to leave Twitter for Mastodon, so... which, this wasn't really a prepared story, but I don't know if people have caught this. I'm sure plenty of people have, but, we're just gonna pop into my profile because it's the shortest trip. For those that haven't been watching, Mastodon doing pretty freaking good for the last, I believe, 5 days. I think it's 5 days. It has not gone under 800 new users every hour. Obviously this graph only shows so far back, but if you were to go back even a couple of weeks, it was pretty consistently like 300, 400 an hour. It has basically doubled its hourly growth. Well, doubled to tripled its hourly growth in just the last couple of weeks. And while, yes, the Twitter API situation is definitely a big part of that, and you can see that spike, it's there on the far left, just about to fall off the graph. But notably, that spike, think about it, that spike is now kind of the level it's just hovering at almost all the time, or very close. So, and this isn't a pitch for Mastodon, this is just very literally like Mastodon's growth is reaching that sort of critical mass point where people are just moving because it's time to move. Like they have friends over there, they have people they're following, there's an interest in being on Mastodon now that doesn't just come from Twitter being a holy burning dumpster fire. Though let's be fair, the holy burning dumpster fire really helps so much. So yeah, we're seeing it just progressively burning faster and faster and faster. Let's see. Okay, I just wanted to peek at those notifications. There's nothing special there. So yeah, I'm truly blown away. I'm impressed that someone's vanity is actually so much on display. It is it almost seems like a symptom of something that has gone wrong. Like, he might actually be sick. I don't know if anyone's considered this. If someone's maybe asked, like, a shrink to look at him. But not that he would ever sit still for that. But at some point, you gotta wonder, where does this stop? Where does this go? And at what level of crazy can we reach? This is almost reason to go back to Twitter. It's almost worth seeing how much stupider it'll get. Though, fortunately, we have articles like this that will keep telling us, so we don't have to watch ourselves. Oh, by the way, for those that don't want to read this article, or somehow missed seeing it, I did post it earlier in Discord, but link here as well. This all started because President Biden's tweet got way more views than Musk's. And it stands out to me. Honestly, I can tell you exactly what the engineer should have done. Rather than amplifying Elon Musk, they should have written something into the algorithm that just increases the number of views that he gets. Just for him, report way higher views. That's it. Just like put a multiplier of like ×5 or ×10. More views, maybe put a multiplier on for the number of likes and tweets, or retweets, or replies. Just put multipliers on these things, just to make him feel good. And everyone else has to see it too. The numbers have to be bogus. That's fine. He'll be happy. Everyone else would be happy because they don't have to read him as much. Like, there is no version of this where it isn't just better if he thinks he's getting tons of exposure while everyone else just goes about their business. So, yeah. There you go. That's my 2 cents on this. I honestly, there's... Oh, there was one other thing that stood out to me. Well, there were a couple of things, though they're a bit older news. But one of the parts that really jumped out was this line. Last week, Platformer broke the news that he fired one of 2 remaining principal engineers at the company after the engineer told him that views on his tweets are declining in part because interest in Musk has declined in general. Wow. So they were already down to 2 key engineers. I mean, that's already shocking. I don't know how many they had before, but it was a lot more than this. Which, you know, some might argue was a problem with Twitter. That's a whole other discussion. But I mean, they're down to 1 person who is truly in charge of the whole thing. And that person has to know their time is like ticking away. Things are going to get so much worse. All the while, Twitter has had more and more technical problems cropping up. Apparently, I didn't read any details about it, but I saw The Verge mention... Actually, I can probably pull that up right now. Let's see... Yeah, the headline really says it all. Twitter's back after struggling on a random Wednesday. There was no event. There was no reason for this. It was just failing to load. I mean, this is that level of holy crap, things are failing. And they're just going to keep getting worse. In all likelihood. I can't read the future. I just happen to be a pretty good, I happen to have a really good history of calling the future when it comes to Twitter's problems. And yeah, I think we're edging closer to watching Twitter just have an actual, like, a day off. it'll go on vacation for extended periods of time, and all of a sudden it might just not come up for a while. I feel like this is coming. We're going to see actual failures happening at some point, and it's gonna get hilarious. Let's see. Also, actually, this is really kind of interesting. User reports peaked at more than 8,000 on Down Detector. And yes, that is a lot. But I'm honestly surprised it wasn't more. You'd think with Twitter going down, there'd be a whole lot of people making a fuss about that. The fact that they're not, probably a sign. I think Twitter's user numbers have to be just falling through the floor. Obviously, there are still millions and millions of people going there, but I think their hourly usage is probably flatlining pretty hard. It's probably some number of people who are just perpetually on no matter what, and then I bet that number, first of all, I'm sure has fallen. But I have a feeling the other thing, and this is just to call it out, but I'm sure other people already knew about this. It's not exactly new news, but Taylor Lorenz, she's obviously become kind of a main character on Mastodon, and one of Elon's biggest enemies. She posted some tweets on an account that has no actual way people can see those tweets. She doesn't have any, or she has not permitted any followers. This is a private account. And those tweets, as the screenshot shows, they have views. They actually have kind of a lot of views, seeing as this is an account that could never possibly have views. Which begs the question, how's that happening? Who's doing it? And what impact is it having? Are these technically like real views that just happen to be counted even though they're not supposed to be visible? David, yeah, exactly. Well, I wouldn't go to scary, but it indicates to me that it is yes, possible that they're showing these tweets to people unintentionally. I think there is a possibility that this is like passing through moderation systems or something like that, and those are counting views for no particularly good purpose. It's also possible that it's just lying. Which people have been theorizing this for a while. Everyone's been pretty sure that the view counts are not really accurate. But the key point here is there's a problem. The views are definitely dishonest in some way, shape, or form. Or something is being dishonest here. And it makes Twitter look pretty bad. So, yeah, for those that didn't know about this, now you know. If you posted something and it somehow magically got like 500 views, the odds are pretty good it's more like 50. I don't know, I'm spitballing. It could be higher, it could be lower. But yeah, I think at this stage, being honest about Twitter is to say that Twitter is not being honest. Also, hello Carson, how's it going, man? So, let's see. Anyway, enough of the Twitterscape. We're going to switch. Let's see. Do we go to Apple or do we go to Google? I got two topics on each. I feel like. Hold on. I don't have a coin here, but I'm flipping a cap. So, I should have actually called it first. Bottom down is going to be Apple. All right, we're going Google. How often do you pick topics that way? Man, I feel like he's staring at me. His eyes just kind of, well, they don't follow me, but they just, It feels intimidating. Anyway, dude, like, seriously, just chill, okay? Chill. We can be friends. So Sundar Pichai has asked everyone at the company, or at least engineers. I don't think that this is like a going to everyone thing, though. I believe this was not specified in the article, but Business Insider reports that Sundar sent an email to Google's, again, I'm assuming engineers, asking them all to spend 2 to 4 hours this week helping to test the AI chatbot known as Bard. So obviously Austin posted this link, and I don't have a ton of things to say on this. Obviously, it does kind of show that they're getting a little bit, I don't want to say desperate. I don't think desperation is really the right word for it. But I think they are trying to pick up and examine as many different takes as they possibly can. And since they're not going to make this open to the public, at least not right away, the only way they can really get a truly huge number of users is to ask people inside the company. Obviously, it probably would have been good to do this before they fired in the 5 digits of people, but hey, that's just how it goes. But hey, you know, Sundar, I just feel like it needs to be pointed out. If you had asked, you know, that over 10,000 people that were let go very recently, you could have had somewhere, you know, let's say 20 to 40,000 hours of extra testing by employees. Just pointing that out. Anyway, so that little bit of salt aside, it is interesting that they're trying to do this as the same chatbots that we've already been seeing. Bard obviously does have other functions and capability, but for the most part, it seems like they're trying to test it like a typical chatbot, like the ones that we're already familiar with. And I know that that's not out of bounds for what they were trying to build, but the way that last week's announcement came across, I got the impression they weren't trying so much to build a traditional chatbot. They were trying to build more a framework for building other much bigger goals. And this strikes me as just, hey, let's catch up to everybody else. And I kind of think that's, well, it goes without saying, I think that's a mistake, but it seems like actually a pretty big mistake. Austin, you think this is a response to, pull up this post. Google workers blame CEO Sundar Pichai for a rocky launch of AI chatbot Bard. Yeah, because he was rushing it, if I recall. Let's see. They described it as rush, botched, and googly. How were they? Yeah, he was the driving force behind rushing the event to undercut Microsoft, which, yeah, you know, that is certainly very evident from what happened. At least to some extent. Like, I'm not gonna, this is one of those things where I don't want to totally put the blame on him. And I don't know that there is blame to go around. And I'm saying that in a very developer-centric kind of way. Because we know, they've shown us at Google I/O that the work they're doing in AI has been focused on trying to provide search results that are intelligently formed and trying to be more advisory and informative. And that kind of information, which is great, you want that kind of information, but it hasn't always been in the form that would be workable as a chatbot, which I think is the difference here. Because we know that a lot of this really started in just about, I guess, probably 3 months ago. Somewhere around the time that ChatGPT really, blew up and got everybody's attention. That was right around the same time that Google basically responded and had to move into the let's hurry something out. And I think that we're seeing exactly what that means. We're seeing a bunch of people who had a tool or had a bunch of really good work being done, and they were told basically, and to quote how I imagine it effectively being said, take what you did and make it do something else. They had a good AI system. They had it trained on a lot of good stuff. They were working on really clever tools. And then somewhere along the way, somebody said, and I don't know if it was Sundar truly, or if it was someone advising him or something else, but at some point someone said, hey, why isn't your company doing the same thing everyone else is? And so now they are. They had 2 to 3 months to try to make a clone. Supposedly, it should be better. It obviously wasn't going to be, because they had 2 to 3 months to try to make a clone. And I mean, if they were starting from scratch, that wouldn't be realistic. It wouldn't even be possible to make a true clone totally from scratch in that short period of time. But they had a bunch of work already started. They had a position that they could work from. But a lot of times you just cannot. You can't pivot a huge project like that and immediately turn it into something else without some things going wrong. And things did go wrong, to the tune of 9% of their stock value. All because it answered one dumb question wrong about the James Webb Space Telescope. It's amazing how one dumb piece of news has completely shattered all the progress, or all of the stock value Google gained by firing tons and tons of people. It's almost as if that completely meaningless show of financial inscrutability turned out to be completely worthless in the long run, and was totally dwarfed by screwing up one dumb question. But hey, I'm sure all the people who were fired don't mind at all. Wow, I am sounding hateful. Good. Moving on. But yeah, anyway, honestly, I really do think that this is one of those things where asking a bunch of people to test it, it is kind of a given. Let's be honest, if Apple was building this, they'd be doing the same thing. I mean, Apple literally does this anyway. They do direct their employees to use iPhones. I'm gonna shrink this down now that I'm looking at it. Yeah, that way there's no overlapping with text. Anyway, Apple makes their employees use iPhones. Apple has their employees using MacBooks, which, let's be fair, that one's probably something all of them do anyway. But, this is normal. Google, okay, they don't seem to really be forcing their employees to use too many things, but I get the impression they probably at least lean on them to use certain things depending on what jobs they do. So, and I know for a fact Microsoft has forced employees to use various things in the past too. I just think back to a buddy of mine who actually worked on the Windows Phone team at one point. Yeah, they weren't happy about that. They did not enjoy being forced to use their own product. But hey, it is what it is. So it's not that weird that Google is asking employees to do this. It does feel a little crummy, maybe, that it's implied, though I don't believe it's specific, but it seems implied that they are to some extent asking people to do this, maybe a little bit on their own time. It's not clear that that's the case. This could be sort of a go ahead and do it if it's not going to interfere with your job, I imagine, but still. Yeah. Anyway, switching to Google's other not so bad but not so great news. They launched the first beta of the Android privacy sandbox, or sorry, the privacy sandbox on Android. If we're gonna pick exact phrasing. For those that don't remember, privacy sandbox is their term for an ad tracking mechanism that is not ad tracking in the classic sense where they stick a cookie on your system, but rather it's ad tracking where they stick a bunch of other things that are not technically cookies, but they're just like cookies, onto your devices and say, and these basically tell everyone, here are the ads we'd like to see, instead of you figuring out from us what ads you want to show us. That's effectively all this is. And that's an implementation detail. In truth, this is still basically just a tracking system. It's just one that requires a little bit more creativity, a little more cleverness in order to actually get any tracking value out of it. And it does put a little bit more control into users' hands. Not enough, but some. Anyway, so this is slowly rolling out to some Android 13 devices. I don't believe that they gave a specific list of which devices are going to get it, and it is rolling out in sort of that staged rollout method. So it's pretty much just going to happen as you get it. And it is an iffy kind of thing. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but we'll see. It's one thing that kind of bothers me about it is it is actually more integrated to your device. If we're just talking about tracking cookies for the most part, those are pretty much based just on web usage. The privacy sandbox on Android is actually going to be a little bit more deeply integrated with the OS, and evidently gets a little bit more access than I think you would have gotten other ways. Which the Verge article that covers this actually hits this in a very interesting note in the last paragraph. To quote, for example, if you're seeing ads for camping gear and sleeping bags, then Android may have presumed from your downloaded apps and app activity that you'd be interested in the, quote, outdoors topic, which you'll be able to see listed in this view. Users can block topics they don't want to be targeted for and opt out or back into beta participation at any time. Okay. Bear in mind, this very literally is saying it's looking at your downloaded apps and app activity. Historically, Google could do this, and other apps could, in theory, kind of figure out what apps you have installed. But being able to see your app activity, things like that, it seems like this is getting some nudge in a direction that probably stems from, how to say this? It probably stems from like an OS level agent that gets to determine what things you're doing. That's something that didn't really exist before. Apps that were running on your device, outside of maybe, again, looking at what you might have installed, they didn't have too much that they could go on. Like a freshly installed app couldn't make a guess about what ads to show you, unless they were using like an ad network that was tracking across multiple apps and you already had that ad network code installed on your phone from a previous app. In this instance, they're getting a big advantage. So in theory, apps installed to your phone are probably going to be getting a little bit more information and probably actually being better at targeting ads. Whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing, who knows? And the other ways that companies can use this information, we'll see. One thing that I think could be very interesting, and I don't know too much about how this is implemented. I haven't looked at any SDK information, but one thing I find myself curious about is if a regular app, just any regular run-of-the-mill app, will be able to read these advertising topics. So, for example, just to throw this out there, because the implications of this, I think, actually could be really interesting. But for example, let's say you're playing a game, and we'll use outdoors. That seems like a valid topic. If the app determines, or if this game determines that one of your advertising interests is outdoors, could the game not craft itself to maybe like feature storylines or other I don't know, themes, interests, things like that are focused on outdoors? Maybe if the game has like an in-app store for buying cosmetics, maybe it would feature outdoors oriented stuff, things like that. I'm curious how much apps will be able to access this, and like regular run-of-the-mill apps will be able to access this and make use of it. I'm assuming that I can't think of any reason they wouldn't be able to. David, don't know if you would like this. Right. And I like to think that this is something that could be a positive, but it's also got very negative connotations. Like it definitely feels like you are being kind of cordoned off into whatever you don't want to be, which again, by the way, this is something you can supposedly turn off. Purportedly you can, and presumably will forever and always be able to turn off Privacy Sandbox, at which point you would just get generic ads, in theory. But imagine for a minute if okay, I'm gonna try to go with what I think would actually be a good use of this. Think about those hyper-local social networks. The ones that, well, the one that immediately comes to mind is Google's experiment called Schemer. And there have been there have been hundreds, probably thousands of these things. They are apps that help you find things to do in your local area. Again, using outdoors as a topic, it would be actually kind of neat if you install one of these apps and the first thing it does is look at this stuff and say, oh, well, their device says that they're into outdoorsy stuff. All right, let's not, we don't need to shoehorn them into it, but we can nudge them in the direction of outdoorsy stuff. Or we'll show them a little bit more of that rather than the like indoor knitting community. So, these are things that could possibly factor in, and it could actually make a lot of apps, we'll say, better. We all know apps also typically are not better. They're not good players. They're not the honorable members of the digital society we wish all of them to be. So, yeah, this will obviously be abused. It will be abused in various ways. I wouldn't be surprised if we see in-app stores and purchases with prices that are augmented based on here's what we want to show to certain people, and if you seem like you're into a certain thing, we're going to charge a little bit more for that because we think we can. Like, that sort of stuff will happen. But I think there could be good examples of this too, where apps put it to good use and say, oh, you are this type of person. We have content that we can give you that is actually going to be more to your interest, and we're not just advertising to you. We're just trying to optimize your experience. There will be some of that, I think. I hope. I would like to think that this isn't just a crappy ad network tool that is going to just make things worse. I'd like to believe that it is somehow, in some way, shape, or form, going to be accessible by other apps in a way that is useful to them for real functionality. Which, let's see, privacy sandbox, Android. Let's see. Can I figure this out? Carson, you'll just be keeping the ad personalization off. Honestly, I think that's what most people are going to do, because at a bare minimum, this is something that ad publishers will be using 100% right away. I think even if there are app developers who try to do good things with this, I think that they are months or years out from doing this. I don't think we're going to see good uses of it happen until the bad uses have already really been exhausted. Oh, David. We don't have to imagine the topics. We already know. Guns and Ammo subscribers. Like, that's what they are. There's a lot of them. Guns and Ammo, NRA, the religion, I suppose. I'm honestly, like, I got a lot of really offensive things that I want to say, and I've been bouncing them off my head, like, nope, don't say that, don't say that, don't say that. Anyway, moving on before I get myself in trouble. Let's see. So, where are the attribution reporting API is designed to provide improved user privacy by removing risks. Okay. Preparing for Android Privacy Sandbox Beta. Launch announcement. Oh boy. I was kind of hoping we'd... Okay, how about the SDK? Oh wow, this is a long page. Okay, so they're dumping everything to the application store. I was hoping that we'd have something a little bit more clear. Okay, APIs. The use of reflection to invoke APIs within the SDK runtime is allowed. However, okay, well, that's not quite what we're digging for. App to SDK. The interface between the app and the SDK is blah blah blah. Given the process boundary structure of the SDK runtime, we are proposing to build a marshalling layer accessible within the app to carry the API calls and responses or callbacks across the boundary between the app and the SDK. We are proposing that the interface to this marshalling layer would be defined by SDK developers and generated by official open source build tools that we would develop. Okay. So the question becomes, I mean, there's got to be a way for apps to access this. It can't just be a binary that it can't just be a binary you drop into your app. There has to be a way that anyone can access this. Right? Developer guides. Actually, what's under that? Okay. These are the least helpful things I think I've ever seen. Okay, so to set it up, you need to use access add services topics. Okay, so normal permissions setup. Get topic request. Okay, yeah. So this is just anyone can use this. That's pretty straightforward. I don't know what the responses look like. I kind of want to test this actually. But yeah, so if anyone can use this, I am very curious how much you'd be able to do with this. Yeah, okay. None of that's super interesting. Oh, good. They even have a sample app. I might mess with this. Because if you can trick it into picking a couple of topics for you, which probably isn't that hard, it would be interesting, just to be able to see what stuff this picks for you. And, oh, wait. Actually, I think I even remember hearing that somewhere in settings you can look that up. So they probably already allow you to see your topics. But still, key point is, if app developers can access this stuff, that's great. I mean, it's cringy too, and oh, you know what this really should have? I mean, this is obvious, but you probably should have per app access to this. It should be something that's like on by default, but you should be able to turn it off automatically. That way you can decide if you want to allow an app to see this kind of stuff, because like some people out there might have, like, again, just using a game as an example, if a game would make good clever use of this, some people might be okay with that. Meanwhile, they might look at Facebook and say, yeah, we don't want Facebook knowing an ounce more than they already do. And this seems like a pretty good example of one of those things. Yeah, because I certainly don't want to give Facebook anything more than I do. As it is, I don't even open the app anymore, and I'm getting really close to just uninstalling it, because it just doesn't seem like it's worth having around anymore. But okay, anyway, so Privacy Sandbox, it is a thing. They're rolling it out. Oh, and notably, this is, at least according to The Verge, and, well, according to Google, this is similar to, but not exactly the same as the Privacy Sandbox for web. But they are separate. They are being developed separately. They apparently have two separate teams. And I suppose this means, though it's not entirely clear, I suppose it means that they're that the storage of these two might be separate. I'm not really clear if that's accurate or not. But I think that your web browser will have one set of data. Your phone for apps and other things will have one set of data. And in theory, like every browser you have installed might have a different set, which is interesting. I don't know how that I can see that. It makes some sense. It just seems like a bad idea. I guess it's kind of good in a way, because if you wipe it would allow you to wipe data for one thing but not other things if you care about that. But at the same time, I think if anyone cares about it, they want to wipe data for all the things. Cue all the things emoji. But yeah, anyway. So I think that about covers that topic, probably in much deeper thought and detail than anyone cared to get into. So let's talk Apple. We'll start with this one. And as a side note, if anybody wants to hit any other topics, drop them into the Discord or into YouTube chat, and I no promises, but they may be worth hitting. And I'll make it up as I go. I can confidently say I at least read all of these articles before going live, so I at least know what they said, ish. Admittedly, some of them were a little bit rushed, but hey, bear with me. Anyway, everyone's been talking about it for ages. Apple's mixed reality headset, which is apparently kind of like the half-assed version of what they really wanted to make, but still, their mixed reality headset was apparently originally planned to pop out in April. Now it is going to be held back until June for WWDC. If I can be brutally honest about it, I cannot understand why anyone genuinely thought that this was ever going to come out in April. And that's entirely because this is a device that is going to be so clearly directed at developers. Obviously, it will be intended for customers, yes, but it is a first generation of a completely new form factor. I don't believe for a second that this was ever going to be an early release, because it's not like you can just tell people, oh, hey, by the way, here's some new apps, or here's a new thing, start making apps for it. They're going to have to release this thing, and they're going to have a ton of actual developer sessions targeting this thing. And obviously, they're not doing a big in-person event, not for the sessions themselves. They'll be pre-recording those. That's still a pretty well-known thing. But come on, we know full well they're gonna have to teach people how to develop for this thing. And I just don't buy that they were going to release it 2 months early. Even if there's they're kind of implying that there were other factors and delays that may have been important here. But honestly, it occurs to me, I was just saying, hey, I read through all these things. Actually, this one I didn't get around to reading all the way through. But I do know that there have been implications that this is a little bit about manufacturing delays, and that they have other reasons why they were delaying this. But in truth, I just don't think that there was ever a chance they weren't going to be pushing this. Pushing this to WWDC, because it needs to be a developer timed learning event. So with that said, and yeah, David, we're on the same page here. Exactly. You don't do that. Even Google knew this. They released Glass at I.O., didn't let people buy it outside of developers and influencer types. And that was it. Like, they made a point of saying, you have to kind of be one of two types of people to get this thing. And one of those types of people is the group that we want them to be here, where we're going to show them how to build an app for Glass. And so that's what happened. I just don't think Apple's going to release something that is virtually untestable and unusable without also at least telling people, here's how you should do it. Austin, who needs developers when you have AI? As said by Microsoft in 2025. Oh boy. Behind the scenes, let me tell you, not a day has gone by in the last like 2 weeks that there hasn't been another conversation, just private conversations about ChatGPT, AI, mostly what they can and can't do and write. It's kind of exhausting how much this has become just that topic everyone keeps talking about. Especially seeing as the perspectives people have on it are so polarized in a weird way. So without giving names, I'm part of this one chat server where it is occupied by a few people in, we'll say, the same and neighboring industries. I think that's a fair way to say this. I can think of two people in particular that have commented very, very profusely that they have used ChatGPT to write code. In their cases, the things that they have described it doing are honestly, like, if I'm going to be a judgy dick about it, the things that they've used it for is to write code that they could have easily opened up Stack Overflow and like almost copy pasted the code. Not quite. You'd have to make a couple of tweaks here and there, but almost copy paste. Whereas the things, like, I have tested it myself. I've tried asking it to write some stuff, and admittedly, I have thrown it some hardballs. I asked it to write AppleScript. If anyone has ever written AppleScript or tried writing AppleScript, first off, there is no such thing as writing AppleScript. You try to write AppleScript. Sometimes you get lucky. Most of the time you don't. And if you get lucky, there's no guarantee that it will last, that it will work ever again. AppleScript is one of the worst inventions in computer history. Which is a shame, because it is quite literally also the only language that has some of the capabilities that are very, very useful. Technically, you can use JavaScript for automation, JXA, but it really has its own problems. Anyway, I've tried asking ChatGPT to write AppleScript to do some actually very basic things. Again, things you could go to Stack Overflow and copy and paste out. Things that have been the same, I'm not kidding, for over 10 years. So it's not like the code is new. It has never succeeded. Not once. And admittedly, I've only really tried 3 separate occasions with multiple attempts during each occasion, but still. I've tried 3 times to generate AppleScript using ChatGPT. It has failed catastrophically each time. I've also asked it to write some code in Swift. Just one time I kind of wanted to see if I could just save myself like 20 minutes and ask it just for basically the framework to start an app. Imagine wanting a decent template. And it failed at that. And admittedly, the way that it failed is easy to explain because the training data supposedly was... I think they didn't train it on anything later than 2019. And that being the case, if that's totally true, that actually explains it. So I kind of don't fault it for this one because it got it completely wrong, but the way it got it wrong kind of makes sense. The other thing I tried was asking it to write after I had already written a thing in C#. I asked it to write the exact same kind of thing. I wanted to see if it would come up with something that worked, if it was similar. And this was the first time I ever asked it to write code, even though I'm explaining it last. And it actually did get it very close. It still got it wrong, but it got it wrong in some very easy to spot ways. And it got it wrong in ways that, they were easy to spot and easy to fix. Literally, like, you could have asked it to write this code, and it would have taken, I'd ballpark, I don't know, once it's generated the code, it would take you, if you read through it and make sure that it's doing what it's doing, I'd say it would take 5 to 10 minutes to fix it and get it right. Meanwhile, the time to actually write the code, 20-25 minutes. Like, if you have to research it, look up how to do this thing, find some code you can copy off of Stack Overflow or some documentation. Total time, more. This is the one example out of all the, not that many tests, but out of all the tests that I've done, it's the one time that it got anything close to right. It was still wrong, but it was close. I also know people who've talked about using it for writing articles, and the going consensus is that, well, I think everybody agrees on this. If you're not asking it to do anything too clever, it's actually pretty good at setting up a basic structure and giving you ideas. So, like, if you're trying to write an article that... I'm trying to think of really good examples of this. Well, if you're trying to write, like, a how-to article that has steps involved, it actually could be really good at this, mostly because it's going to go out and steal other people's work who probably already wrote that exact same article. Something you could do for yourself, but you're just asking this to do it for you. If you're asking it to be an editorial generator, it's probably going to produce absolute garbage. And a lot of things in between it's not going to be very good at. But anyway, all the opinions do seem to kind of come back to this can and will be a useful tool. In certain cases, it's total garbage. In other cases, it can actually be really good. Unfortunately, it is doing it on the at the expense of a lot of people who probably were doing marginally better jobs. But I would throw the counterpoint, it's also being used very heavily by companies that already only wanted to hire very low-paid new people to do writing. And if anyone's generating code with this thing, they're either trying to do it as like a shortcut, just in case they get lucky. It is kind of literally the Google's I'm feeling lucky button. So, you know, maybe you'll get something useful out of it, but if you don't, then the time you spent trying to get something useful out of it is, you know, 4 to 5 minutes, so who cares? Anyway, so yeah, fun little side tangent about AI chatbots, I guess. But switching back to Apple's mixed reality headset, as I recall, the rumor on this was that it's going to cost, I believe they said, was it 15, or is this, let's see, the device which melds melds virtual and augmented reality would vault Apple into its first major new product category since the company began selling smartwatches in 2015. That could help bolster growth following a recent slowdown, but it's still an uncertain market, and Apple plans to charge around $3,000 for the new product, which is a daunting price tag. No shit. See, I would have sworn I remember reading somewhere that they were planning the first one to be like 1,500. 15 or 1,800, something like that. At 3,000, this is something that's going to be very popular with influencers, YouTubers, and the like. This is not going to be something the average person at home picks up. Which is another reason that I think that this is largely going to be. Oh, that's right. Wait. Yeah, they were going to come out with a $3,000 model first, and then they're going to try in a year or so, or 2 years, whatever, to roll out one for 1,500 or thereabouts. I'm sure that was the order now. Anyway, but yeah, this is not something that your average person in the flyover states is going to go just casually pick up. Right now, people are trying to save money and not buy too frivolously. And obviously, there are plenty of people who can afford this and won't even flinch at this cost. But I think a lot of people are going to look at this and really, really shy away from it because the cost is just pretty freaking high. It's too much for something like this to just immediately become a success. That being said, show of hands, how many people are going to, of the people in the chat right now, how many people are going to get this if it comes out? And assuming you see it and go, oh wow, that's actually pretty cool. Because honestly, I think the oh wow, it's pretty cool is going to be more of a like, I'd like to have it, but I don't think there's any chance that I'll get it. I think it's going to be a really neat tech demo. I don't expect it to be an actual good product. Not in its first generation. I think it'll be interesting if they get some game developers on board for it. I think it'll be really interesting if they can come up with a couple of their own things to do with it. But I don't think it's going to be an actual good for the masses product. Not out of the gate. And unless they can get a lot of game developers to jump at this thing, which I just don't see happening, then yeah, I just don't think it's gonna get there. David, you would get an Oculus instead. That makes sense. Again, because games. Games are the thing that dictate whether or not this will be a success story. And at least for something that is supposed to be AR and VR. And if I'm wrong on that, I can't wait to see Apple tell me how. Like, what are they gonna do that is not just games? Because I'm struggling to picture what that's gonna look like. I could see maybe Apple Maps, but if this is a large headset, it's not like you're going to be using it to drive around or move, doing a lot of stuff. Like, you're not going to get off the subway, put on your giant Apple headset and go walking around New York City following directions with your mixed reality headset. As cool as that might feel, it's probably not going to feel great when somebody bashes you over the head and steals it. So yeah, I don't think they're gonna do that with Memoji orgies. Oh my god. Austin. Now that you've said those words, I feel like somebody is out there immediately working on 3D modeling this. I was about to say they're working on animating it, but I feel like this has got to be 3D modeled in order to do it justice. But wow, there's some deep wow there. But yeah, I don't know. I'm so curious what... I think more than anything, that's what I want to know. I want to know what apps are going to end up on this, both at launch and in the first, say, year. I just truly cannot imagine them getting any large quantity of games out. I think they'll have some. I don't think it's going to be many. And I just cannot imagine there's going to be a whole lot of useful, good apps popping out right away either. But we'll see. I don't know. If there's ever been a product that I think they need a better story for, it's this one. And also, I think it bears saying, I don't understand, like, assuming all the rumors are true and they're actually going to launch this thing at WWDC and make it for sale at that time or shortly after. My huge question is, why aren't they doing something like they did with the Mac Mini, the original M1 Mac Mini that came out way ahead of actually selling M1 chips? I mean, they loaned a Mac Mini out to a bunch of developers. That's what they did with it. Are they not gonna do that here? Because if I were Apple, I'd be doing loaners. Which, yes, it was already announced they're doing loaners, but they did loaners in like a private, quiet, hush-hush. They reached out to people. You gotta figure that's probably dozens of companies, not hundreds. I'm curious. I want to see. Are they gonna get enough to put on this thing? I'm stuck on this. I don't think it's gonna look good in the first generation. And Apple doesn't have to. They don't have to knock this one out of the park. It's not like it's that big of a deal if it's falling just a little short of what needs to be done. But I think they're gonna have to have something pretty good to roll out as a second gen. We'll see. Anyway, so let's see, swig of water, then we'll move on to the last topic I have prepared. Yes. Actually, I said I had it prepared. Sadly, I don't actually have a lot to say on this one. But, yeah, Apple's antitrust probe by the U.S. Department of Justice is apparently gaining in size. So this is actually kind of in a way a non-story, but it's sort of a story by virtue of keeping the story alive. They're basically the Department of Justice has been investigating Apple for a while. The antitrust investigation has always been at least partially focused on the App Store and the fact that it has been the 100% restrictive thing with apps, or apps for iOS, and so that alone has been kind of a bit of a hot topic. Well, now they are basically confirming that this has expanded at least beyond just that topic and is now it's diving into other things. Basically, if Apple has been anti-competitive in various other realms, if they've been sort of manipulating markets, which, let's be honest, if this doesn't somehow dig into iMessage and Apple's basically abuse of the stupid green bubble, blue bubble BS, if it never gets into that, something's wrong. Because holy crap, that needs to be looked into. And weirdly, no mention of that in this article, which this is a 9 to 5 Mac article, so take that if you will. But I'm just gonna float this out there. I have a feeling many other sites probably covered this and probably made a very clear mention of the iMessage stuff. Anyway, so I don't have a lot of opinions on this, but it will be interesting to see what really comes of this, because as we've discussed in previous weeks, particularly with Google, antitrust lawsuits, they tend not to go quickly. If you've listened to the Tech Tales episodes that we've discussed about Microsoft and Internet Explorer, we dedicated a whole episode to just mocking how long and how ridiculous the trial against Microsoft was, and the various ways that Microsoft had for fighting it, and obviously the fact that they kept filing for appeal after appeal and managed to whittle the efficacy of the ruling down to basically nothing of substance. Race to see who gets knocked first, Google or Apple. Yeah, honestly, that I think is really the question here. They're app stores, at least. But yeah, the thing is, in any antitrust case, by the time they file it, various things will have probably already changed in the market. We'll see how. But it's very possible, or rather, not possible. We know for a fact, before any of this stuff even happens, it's very likely Apple is going to technically support more openness in their app store to comply with the UK. So right there, things will have changed before the Department of Justice ever even gets their filing out. So that alone leaves me thinking that this is probably going to have very little efficacy in the long run. The Department of Justice will surely get a lawsuit in. They will probably fine the living hell out of Apple, which Apple will just see as the cost of doing business. They will happily pay those fees, fines, whatever, and just go about their day. Actually, they'll probably appeal it because it'll surely be many, many, many millions of dollars, and it's cheaper just to pay their lawyers to fight that stuff. But still, I'm sure the Department of Justice will chase at least some sort of ruling. In the meantime, what changes will it ever force Apple into? I don't think that the App Store is going to be as exclusive by the time any of this happens. So, including in the US. We know in the UK it's going to be more open, but in the US I think it's going to be also probably opening up around the same time. And look, Google is already building a browser that they'll be able to ship to the Mac App Store someday, or distribute to iOS devices. So they're already preparing for this. They know that this day is coming. In the meantime, what other changes are going to come about? Is the DOJ actually going to pursue the iMessage issue? Are they going to pursue some of Apple's other iffy competitive practices? I don't know. We'll see, but it doesn't feel like that's gonna go the way that I think we all would expect. I think this is gonna, honestly, I just think it's gonna peter out. Even though supposedly this is, they're trying to justify putting Jonathan Cantor on this, the head of the DOJ's antitrust division. I think I just think that that's going to drum up more drama and not actually change anything. But we'll see. And in the meantime, yes, this also begs the question of what's going to happen with Google in that same time period. Is Google going to pop up and give us a bunch of interesting stuff? Is the DOJ actually going to hit them with anything? And also, I'm kind of curious if we're going to get any big drama like we did with the Epic versus Apple lawsuit. The DOJ typically doesn't chase drama, not in a very grandiose way, or at least not for antitrust. But could they here? There's a lot of opportunity for this to become drama, but we'll see. Austin, you think Apple will offer RCS support as a concession? I've predicted it for ages, yes. But I think, again, and it's the same thing that I've said over and over again. I really I'm not changing my tune on this at all. I think Apple is going to offer RCS support through iMessage. It will not be built into the phones. You will have to use iMessage if you want RCS support, which I know every single person who would hear that or anything would immediately say, oh yeah, who cares? Obviously, like, that doesn't matter. Everyone with an iPhone uses iMessage. Not everyone with an iPhone uses iMessage. There are some people out there who, I mean, they're using the app, but you don't have to, at least, okay, I can't actually say this anymore because I don't know if it's still true. But at least for a long time, you could use iMessage without it actually going through the iMessage server. It was just standard, basic SMS and MMS support running over the same cellular networks, going straight to your phone without passing through iMessage servers. That was a thing they did support. I assume they still do. I don't know though. But assuming that they still support that, let's be brutally honest here. If they do support RCS, it will 100,000% require iMessage. They still want everyone tied to iMessage. Okay, you can still turn it off. Good to know. David, that's exactly it. They don't want the green bubble thing to go away. And I bet they will still allow some things to be broken. They'll support RCS and it will function as it needs to, but I bet 100% Apple will still allow a few things to be broken. Just because they still want that one effect that has been so powerful. They want iPhone users to look down their nose at Android users. They want it to be a thing that they can bully with. It is a bullying tactic, and it has been stupidly successful. So yeah, I think when Apple gets forced to, they will make that concession. That being said, I bet they will still drag that out in court as long as they can. They will probably wait till they've been until there is a ruling against them, at which point they will then move to offering a deal. And very possibly they might wait until after they've done some appeals. I think they were going to fight tooth and nail to not to refuse to do it, but to delay doing it. This is a classic tactic in all kinds of court cases. If you were on the defense, 9 times out of 10, you want to delay as much as possible. It's funny because this tactic has been brought up in a completely different context not that long ago with regards to a particular orange alien. But there is a tactic in court cases where if you're on the defense, you basically want to delay as long as possible in any and all cases, with a few exceptions. But if you're actually legitimately innocent, then you might want to rush them because, well, for reasons it'll be obvious in a second. But the reason for this strategy, it has everything to do with witnesses. As time goes by, witnesses have a tendency to A, forget things, and B, they die, or they move, or they become unavailable, or name any number of things. The simple fact is, at a certain point, if you have, like, if you're the plaintiff, you rely on witnesses who are mostly unimpeachable as witnesses. You don't want a defense attorney to walk in and just obliterate the credibility of your witnesses. If people have started forgetting stuff, then it starts getting really easy to shoot holes in their testimony. If people die or become incapacitated, or again, if they leave or move away from the country or whatever, they become unavailable. All of these things really rip apart a plaintiff's court case. And it makes it easier for the defense to just basically kind of get an easy judgment because there's just not enough proof against them. That is 100% to Apple's advantage here. The longer they can drag this out, the more they can just keep it as a slow-moving iceberg, the less that anyone's going to have to use against them. And so it is to their advantage to just drag this out. And I wouldn't be surprised. I expect Google's doing the same thing. Let's see. But yeah, and also on the note of making the concession to use RCS, it's also to Apple's benefit just to keep dragging this out because the iMessage effect has been very successful for them. It has definitely driven customers to iPhones over Android phones. No one really disputes this. It's very obviously true. The thing is, the longer they can keep the status quo, the longer or the more advantage they're going to make in the market. And at a certain point, as long as it doesn't become too overwhelming, if it reaches a point of absurdity, then it can work against Apple. But and by that I mean, like, if Apple somehow achieves, let's say, 95% of the smartphone market in the US, the DOJ is going to just run amok on. They're going to run roughshod right over it. They're going to punch them so hard, repeatedly, over and over again. Hey, I've got a spam call coming in. And there they go. They hung up. Woohoo! At least I assume they hung up. Anyway, so yeah, it is to Apple's benefit just to keep the status quo. And when they finally have to make a concession, then they will, and it'll work out just again in their favor. Let's see, Carson, but they basically force you to turn it on when setting up the phone. Obviously that's iMessage. Yeah, I know that. I remember that setup process pretty clearly. They club you over the head with how much they basically, well, actually they don't really club you over the head with it. They basically just say, we're going to turn it on. And I think there was a very non-obvious button you could press to skip that. And even then, I think they nudge you in that direction over and over again. And yeah, basically everybody has it, in part because why wouldn't you? You know, unless you're using the phone in a very minimal capacity, chances are you just want to use iMessage anyway. So yeah, sorry, spacing out for a second. Let's see, the last thing, Google still requires you to have the Google Messages app and accept the pop-ups, so it's not entirely on by default. Yeah, Google has certainly been less abusive in this territory. Though, yeah, when it comes to RCS, I wouldn't say that they're better. The only thing that's better about Google and RCS is the fact that they've at least invited Apple to be part of the ecosystem. No one is inviting anyone to be part of Apple's iMessage ecosystem, except for companies that are doing kind of creepy, weird, running iPhones, like running a fleet of iPhones just to act as iMessage servers. But hey, it is what it is. So let's see, was there any other angle on this? I don't think so. Trying to think what else was there. And then I already actually did a skim over the last like 2 or 3 days of what The Verge has posted, basically this whole main week, and I did not see much of anything. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised I managed to squeeze. This is what, an hour and a half. Man, it feels like more. When Corbin is on, we don't get through topics quite as quickly. But yeah, so far I've done an hour and a half and hit 5 to 6 topics. I guess 6 if we're counting the ChatGPT conversation. Almost 7 with this Apple stuff. But yeah, the thing is, like, there isn't much happening this week. It's been a weirdly, like, low activity week. And I kind of want to blame maybe politics. Politics has really been dominating a big part of it, thanks to Balloongate. And obviously, like, all anybody wants to talk about is ChatGPT stuff, which, yikes. So, yeah, that is what it is. Oh, by the way, just while I am doom scrolling The Verge, hoping to stumble across any last topic that might be interesting. Oh, actually, well, this isn't interesting, but may as well just throw it in there. Well, before I do, if anyone would like to support the show, assuming you don't already, and thank you to those who do, but there are links down below to Streamlabs chat, or I was about to say chat app. Don't go to chat app. There are links to Streamlabs, Cash App, and Patreon if you would like to support the show. And again, thank you to those who do. You guys are awesome. You are very much saving my butt with that. But yeah, anyway. So Google Fiber, for the first time in forever, is actually making news again. And it's because they are actually going to be rolling out some 5 gigabit internet service, or 5 gigabit fiber service to let's see, Kansas City, West Des Moines, and parts of Salt Lake City, which, holy crap, that's pretty neat. Oh, and apparently 8 gig packages for some people. So that's, cheers. How neat would that be? I'm just thinking that'd be pretty damn cool. Off the top of my head, actually, I don't remember what my fastest option is, but I'm looking it up really quick. Residential internet. Let's see. Yeah, the fastest my ISP can even do is 2.5 gigabit, which still is actually like crazy good. Kind of wish I could afford that, but holy crap. Well, I guess that makes sense. I was gonna say, for the price, that is really, really high, but it's actually fairly reasonable when you compare it to the service I get now. Wait, I think I'm on that one. Am I on that one? Oh no, I'm on that one. Oh wow. Huh. I thought it was on the next step up. Oh well. Not that anyone really cares, but just to show you what I mean, I am on, I've got to be on this one based on what I pay every month. The $250 for $50 a month. The jump up to a gigabit is only $10 more. That's surprisingly good, all things considered. But then for just, you double it and add $5, and you actually up the data rate by 2.5 times. That's actually really good. Again, I can't really afford to do this, but that would be neat. If I start making any decent money, I am gonna have to look into doing this. But hey, another time, another thing to consider. Anyway, but yeah, Google Fiber is actually like active again. I don't think they made any really notable news in like a year and a half, 2 years. So this is a nice change. David, you'd kill for some fiber. Yeah. It's nice. That's all I can say about it, is it's nice. But yeah. Even at the relatively slow data rate that I've got, it's so much better than when I was on DSL, and DSL had its problems when I was on it because of the company. It was terrible company, terrible hardware, all around, lots of problems with it. But even that was a million times better than having to rely on what was a line of sight style sort of dish service. That was horrible. Just absolutely the worst service, worst connectivity. I'm so glad that's over. I cannot fathom going back to what I used to have. Austin, yeah, UFOs and chemical spills really stole the week. Yeah, and I assume you heard there's now been a second chemical spill, a second train derailment, and a chemical spill. I'm not kidding. I have a goat staring at me. Yeah. Her name's Cassie. Yep, that's her. Anyway, weird times. Oh, I was on the wrong view for that, kind of. Technically, she was visible in the very tiniest little frame of that screen, but hey, whatever. But yeah, David, I can't answer that. Yes, there was a goat walking through my house. Little secret, I don't actually live in Oregon or even the US. I'm actually located in South America. Be weird if that was true. Anyway. No, that's a joke. I'm in Bali. But anyway. No, actually I'm in Kansas City. I'm already on Google's Google Fiber with the 5 gigabit plan. But no. Anyway. So cheers to them. This is pretty neat. In response, comically, Comcast says it's close to launching 10 gigabit service, or rather 10G service, which who the hell knows what that's really going to be. But yeah, so the worst ISP in the world is claiming that they'll be competitive someday soon. And then there are others that are also going to be competing in the 5 gigabit realm, but apparently at a higher price. So Google Fiber is again a thing everybody should be wanting, and not enough of us can have. And Google doesn't seem to care because they keep rolling it out to places like Kansas City, West Des Moines, and Salt Lake City. Come on, guys. Roll it out to rural Oregon, please. I would love that. But yeah, anyway. Let's see. Yeah, the UFO stuff. I'm not going to get into too much about that. All I can for anyone who doesn't know and wants the extremely TLDR version on that, they shot down one actual balloon, or was it 2? And then after that, or was it 3? Actually, I kind of lost track of how many balloons it was. But then they shot down 3 other things that were not necessarily balloons, but were basically balloons. But they were not from China. They were not considered a threat. They just got shot down as an act of caution, and it turns out that it was a mistake, because they were all supposed to be up there for commercial and non-hostile reasons. So yeah, and I'm waiting for the news to come out, because I think it will, that those probably belong to people who registered them with the FAA and are now going to sue for damages. I don't know that's going to happen, but I think it's going to happen. Let's see. Again, I'm skimming over the Verge's stuff, and I'm not seeing anything else in here. So yeah, I think, unless somebody else has anything to suggest, I think that's probably going to be about the end of today's show. Let's see. For the weekend, I'm going to try really hard, I promise, to actually be able to stream both Saturday and another day. I don't know what I'm going to do with this, because I've been really bad at this streaming on Monday thing. I think I'm sure I can do it. it's just been, the last couple of weeks have been really, really messy and kind of chaotic, so it's made it harder to do that. I don't think that'll be the case this time around, but I'll ask those that are interested in watching The Last of Us streams, do you prefer Sunday? Would you prefer Monday? One way or the other, this Saturday I'm going to stream The Last of Us because I probably need to play like 2 to 3 days worth to catch up with the show. And then after that, I can just run alongside the show. But yeah. And I don't know if I can do this, but I think I could probably, this week in theory, I could probably do Saturday, Sunday, and Monday night. And at the end of that, I think I'd be caught up with the show. Give or take. I don't know for sure. Anyway. I will accept thoughts on this. But yeah, one way or the other, I should be streaming Saturday. I'm pretty confident on that. Let's see. And I'm still scouring. Okay, not that this is in any way, shape, or form important, but I just wanted to point out this one thing from The Verge because I really appreciate it, even though it doesn't matter that much. But Kevin Feige absolutely loads the term content. Thank you. I couldn't agree more. I despise the term content. I use it all the time because I know that's what people prefer or expect. But I am so tired of the word content because it is so stupidly generic and vague. Sometimes it applies. It is valid in some cases. But holy crap, nothing annoys me more than like a YouTuber that says that they're delivering content. No, you're delivering a damn video, dude. You can be more specific. Be specific. It's okay. No one cares about what you're tweeting. They care about the videos you produce. So stick to that's the thing that you're producing is videos. If you're tweeting, you're just tweeting. Good for you. But you're announcing stuff. That's not content. That's just your communication platform. But your videos are the thing people are actually coming for. And that's the thing that you're making. That's actually making the money and doing a thing. And nobody, if someone comes out with shirts, merch, no one calls that content. It's merch. That's a totally separate thing. People may be getting it from you, but it's not content. If people are producing a podcast, they don't have to say that they're producing content. They can say, yeah, we're making a podcast. It's a word. People understand it. I don't want to hear people use content unless they are specifically saying, oh yeah, by the way, our content represents audiobooks, podcasts, we make videos, we write articles. Yes, we have a content empire. Okay, you get to use the word content because it is such a broad set of things that you're describing. If you make videos, you make videos. If you make podcasts, you make podcasts. If you sit back and make music, you make music. Don't just genericize everything into content just for the sake of doing it. Yeah. Rant over. Let's see. I'll get to the bottom of this page if I haven't found something. I think we'll be at the end of this. So let's see. Oh boy. So I'm just gonna put this on screen. I'm not gonna. Oops. yeah, I'm just putting that on screen. People can read it if they like. Just that thing at the top, I just find that amusing. But David, the word content sucks. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like the word creator. Or the word influencer. Actually, the word influencer was more offensive. I'm generally okay with the word creator, but it still sounds a little bit wrong. But I get it. Influencer just sounds disgusting. Funny thing is, it's probably more accurate than creator, but it's just so icky. Influencer feels like people don't have a choice in the matter. An influencer pushes people into stuff. They've influenced them. It sounds icky. Creators sounds pompous and arrogant, but at the same time, it's pompous and arrogant, but it's sort of less icky. But it also just doesn't sound as accurate. It doesn't sound true to me. Creators are people that, in my mind, creators are more like, I don't want to say inventors necessarily, but oops, damn it, their click target is really huge on these. To me, creators are people who are actually again, I don't want to say inventors necessarily. That's maybe too restrictive, but to me, creators are the term should be reserved for something that's a little more than just, let's say, recording a video game session and putting it out on YouTube. You're not creating something, you're just capturing the thing that you're doing and putting it out there for people to watch. Creating, I like the idea of creating being more of an active role and actually engineering something new, something that didn't exist before, or at least putting together things in a really good, useful way. So yeah, anyway, so I think I've hit the limit of how much Verge browsing I can really justify doing. So that's gonna mark the end of this one. Thanks everyone for coming by, hanging out, and being part of the conversation. I've enjoyed having the chat room involved in this one. You guys are awesome. And again, as I mentioned earlier, you can catch me this weekend doing some streaming of The Last of Us, where I will be killing some infected and probably some Fedra soldiers, because both of them are digital creations that need to die. And of course, we'll be back next week, hopefully with a Corbin in tow. We'll see what happens. And yeah, that's pretty much the plan. Again, feel free to support the channel by checking out the links below to Streamlabs, Cash App, and Patreon. I've been your host, and I will hopefully see you in the next one. So with that, good night, everybody.